Okay, so good day to all of you. So we're already going to start our first lesson for CPT 322 Plant Safety Network course, which is all about the legal labor protection. So let's start. So for the introduction, so labor protection is an ambiguous term. So in general usage, so labor protection is the entirety of the rules of law, research, and both organizational and technical resources, and is for the protection of workers' rights and their lives and health from dangerous and harmful factors in a work environment. So as it said, so the definition for its general usage is all about the rules of law, research, organizational and technical resources, and for the protection of the workers' rights. There are different worker rights, and of course, the protection of their lives and health from the dangerous and harmful factors in a work environment. So, also in general usage, labor protection also aims to create optimal work conditions in terms of ergonomics. So you should use tools, specific design tools that are that is not harmful with the health or the body of the workers, the physiology and the psychology of work. So in the science of law, on the other hand, labor protection concerns the subject as well as the aim and scope of the protection offered. So, labor protection can be either the protection of work, such as regarded by Kotarbinsky as all activities aiming at overcoming difficulties to meet one's crucial needs, or it can be understood not as the protection of the working world or its interest, but as the protection of human beings and the labor force or the workers. Because of the word labor protection, maybe you can uh, get the meaning that it's protection for the labor or for the working world, but it also includes the protection of human beings and the labor force. So in this case, so labor protection means the protection of a worker from the negative phenomena that occur during the work process. And therefore, legal labor protection is the system of legal means that is used to provide both safety and health protection of the workers. So, labor protection is all about the laws or the system of legal means that is used to provide both safety and health protection to workers. So, labor protection concerns with the overall safety and health of all the workers in a workplace. So, the notion of labor protection is associated with the development of labor law as a branch of law. Actually, here in the Philippines, we have laws related to labor law or specifically for occupational safety and health standards. So we have the Republic Act or RA number 11058 or an act strengthening compliance with occupational safety and health standards and providing penalties for violations thereof. And then we also have the Department Order or DO number 198 series of 2018, the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act number 11058. So this is issued by Department of Labor and Employment. And we also have in our Labor Code of the Philippines, it is situated in Book 4, the Health and Safety and Social Welfare Benefits, Chapter 2, which is Occupational Health and Safety. So over the course of time, especially in the German theory of law, a distinction was introduced between protection from risks that occurred during the work process and the regulation of working time and working relations. So for the German theory of law, there's a distinction between, for example, laws for protection of the workers in the workplace and also the regulation of working time and working relations. So this led to the differentiation of labor protection, regarded as a subject of public law from legislation on working relations, regarded as a subject of private law. So it depends upon the company what are their rules and regulations for working time and working relations. But of course, if they have a different working time and working relations, of course, they have a different set of compensation. So for example, if this industry requires longer hours of work, of course, the workers who are working on that longer hours of work should be well compensated. So after the Second World War, labor protection was defined as a set of activities aiming to eliminate the factors responsible for reducing the abilities of the workforce. So after Second World War, labor protection just concerned about the abilities of the workforce. It does not concern them the life and health of the workers. It's just that, for example, if you are in a manufacturing industry and the workers are using their skills by using their hands, if, for example, the hand is decapitated or amputated because of a machine, so that is what you're calling that. Of course, you will have a disability. You cannot use the skill anymore because it's related with with your hand. So at that time, labor protection only concerns about the abilities, but not the holistic being of the workers, the health, and of course the lives of the workers. So it also aimed to provide optimal conditions for exploitation, appropriate recovery, and development of the workforce. Of course, let's go back here, but nowadays our laws for labor is different now because we are concerning the lives of our workers, of course. And of course, the second entry, so it also aimed to provide optimal conditions for exploitation, though exploitation has a negative connotation. But if you can see, of course, in a real world sense, we workers are being used by our company. Our skills, our knowledge, it is being used by the company. But of course, you can say exploited, but we are compensated at the same time. You can use exploit, you're being exploited, that the company uses all your abilities, your knowledge, but you are not compensated with what you are doing for the company. So that's why, though exploitation is used here, there is a term optimal condition. So it means you are still compensated well. Even you use your skills and abilities and share your knowledge to the company. And of course, appropriate recovery. For example, if you're sick, there also have rules and regulations regarding sick leave and development of the workforce. So of course, specifically nowadays for industrial plants, if if the company will introduce new technology, so they must train their workers so that they will know how to use this technology. So there is a training. So that is the development of the workforce. So, safety and health laws were then repeatedly revised and amended over the course of time. As I've discussed in the previous slide, after the Second World War, labor protection only concerns the abilities of the workforce, but nowadays it does not concern only the abilities, but the lives and the health of our workers. So, it really changes over time. So, specifically here in the Philippines, the Occupational Safety and Health Standards was formulated in 1978 in compliance with the constitutional mandate to safeguard the worker's social and economic well-being as well as his physical safety and health. Adopted through the tested democratic machinery of tripartism, the 1978 standards is considered as a landmark in Philippine labor and social legislation. With joint efforts from the Bureau of Working Conditions, the International Labor Organization or the ILO Manila office. So, why this labor has the U? Okay. English words that has this U, this is originated in British English. Um, Great Britain, countries in Europe and Australia uses this labor with the U. Same as color with the U and behavior with the U. These are some of the words. If you will encounter these words with letter U, of course, here in the Philippines, with our spell check, why is it a red? Because our settings is American English or Filipino English. It does not necessarily mean a word with labor, color, and behavior with you is misspelled. No, It's just that, for example, if you have a book that has this spelling, if you really encountered, it's not wrong spelling. It's just that the book is written in British English or in Europe, written in European countries or in Australia. Okay, so that's the difference between British English and the American English. So for labor, for color, for a behavior, they have you. Okay, let's continue. And the tripartite sectors, the revisions to the OSH standards were approved in August 1989. With the latest improvements in the standards, all establishments covered will now be provided with a better tool for promoting and maintaining a safe and conducive working environment. So, do we have an occupational safety and health in the labor code? Actually, I've already presented it. So, it is located in the Labor Code of the Philippines, Book 4, Health, Safety, and Social Welfare Benefits, Chapter 2, Occupational Health and Safety. So, let's see the link. Okay. Okay. Wait. Okay. So, we have the link for the Labor Code of the Philippines, Book 4, Chapter 2. As much as I want to discuss this, but of course, this is Labor Code of the Philippines. I think I'm not entitled for the interpretation. Maybe my interpretation is wrong. So, I think um, persons from the Department of Labor and Employment is better to interpret the laws. So let's just have the outline for Chapter 2, Occupational Health and Safety. So for Article 162, all about safety and health standards. And then they're also conducting research to improve the occupational health and safety. And then they also provide training programs. And on Article 165, Administration of Safety and Health Laws. Okay, so that is the content. Actually, it's very short. So, why it's so short? Actually, it's the responsibility of the Department of Labor and Employment. We'll discuss later on, or you'll see what are the laws pertaining to occupational safety and health. Okay, let's go back with our presentation. Okay, so, okay. So, sources of law that include occupational safety and health requirements other than the labor code. It is already presented here in the previous slide. So, we have the RA number 11058 and the Department or Order number 198 by Department of Labor and Employment. Okay, let's return again. Okay, so this is the contents of Republic Act number 11058. So again, I for myself, I'm not entitled to interpret the law. There are experts and authorities to explain this. Okay, for general provisions, duties and rights of employers, workers, and other persons. So I hope you'll be aware. I'll providing videos for the discussion of this RA and the department order. Because of course, if you're here in the Philippines, you must be aware. If you're going to take a job here in the Philippines, you must be aware what is the duties of the employers, of the workers. But if you're going to go to other countries, of course, it's another issue or another question because you must be familiar with the labor laws in the country where you're going to be employed. So for chapter 4 is covered workplaces, and then chapter 5 is joint and solidarity liability, and chapter 6 enforcement of occupational safety and health standards. And then chapter 7 is miscellaneous provisions. Okay. So it was approved August 17, 2018. That is the RA number 11058. Okay, then we also have, of course, the DO number 198 by DOLE. So let's see the contents. Okay, again. So this department order is the specific because it's implementing rules and regulations of RA 11058. So actually, they have similarities with RA 11058, but of course, this includes the rules and regulations specific for how to implement OSH. So chapter 1 is declaration of policy, chapter 2 is general provisions, and then we have definition of terms, which is almost the same with RA number 11058. And then duties and rights of employers, workers, and other persons. And then covered workplaces. And chapter 5, joint and solidarity liability. And then chapter 6, enforcement of occupational safety and health standards. And then chapter 7 is we have miscellaneous provisions. So that is the Department Order number 198 of Department of Labor and Employment. Again, we'll have a video discussing what is the content of Department Order 198. Okay, do we have international laws? Of course. So OSH as a discipline of law is subject to frequent changes due to scientific progress in the field of technology, medicine, and work organization. So the International Labor Organization, or the ILO, was founded in 1919. Since its inception, the ILO has been dealing intensely with the creation of work conditions, especially by performing normative activities. According to the Constitution of the ILO, the organization creates norms of law in the form of international conventions and recommendations. Article 19.1 of the Constitution of the ILO. So the ILO conducts intensive legislative activity in the area of occupational safety and health. 187 conventions, including 42 directly concerned with OSH, have been enacted from the foundation of the ILO in 1919 through 2006. So let's see an article regarding to the international labor standards in the Philippines. Thus, the Philippines complied with the conventions of ILO. Okay, so the international labor standards in the Philippines. So the international labor standards provide a policy framework for the ILO's work to promote social justice in the world of work and realize the decent work agenda. So the Philippines has ratified 38 ILO conventions, of which 30 are in force. This include all fundamental conventions covered by the 1998 Declaration on the Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work and its follow-up, and two governance or priority conventions on tripartite consultation and employment policy. Latest ratification is Labor Relations Public Service Convention 1978, or number 151, on October 10, 2017. The Philippines is thus far the first country in Asia and the Pacific to have ratified this convention. Wow, congratulations to the Philippines. So the ILO continues to promote the Occupational Safety and Health Convention 1981, which is number 155. So Work and Fishing Convention 2007, which is number 188. Private Employment Agencies Convention 1997, which is number 181, and Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention 1989, which is number 169. Information from ILO's supervisory mechanisms remain to be source of technical assistance for the ILO to support improved application of ratified conventions such as labor relations in the public sector, domestic workers and labor clauses in public contracts, eliminations of child labor, labor inspection, and freedom of association are covered by technical cooperation and programs. So, these are the general description of the 38 ILO conventions of the Philippines. And Philippines is commended as the first country in Asia and the Pacific to have ratified the Convention for Labor Relations, Convention 1978, or the number 151. Okay, then let's see the details of the ratifications for the Philippines. Okay. Okay, for the Philippines, that is said, 38 conventions. The fundamental conventions is 8 of 8. Governance conventions, 2 of 4. And then technical convention, 28 of 178. So out of 38 conventions ratified by the Philippines, of which 31 are in force, this is the latest, 6 conventions have been denounced, none have been ratified in the past 12 months. So this is the status of all the 38 conventions ratified for the Philippines. And then as we can see, specifically for occupational safety and health, we have the we have the C17 or Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health Convention 2006, which is the number 187, Convention number 187. So, we have complied with the convention number 187, which will be discussed on the next slide. So, the basic ILO convention concerning OSH and the work environment is Convention number 155 adopted in 1981. It obliges the signatory countries to formulate, implement, and periodically review their national policy on OSH in the work environment. So, let's see Convention number 155. Actually, it's summarized here. The representative organizations of employers and employees should be consulted regarding the contents of the policy before putting the policy into practice. So we have the C155 Occupational Safety and Health Convention 1981 or Convention number 155. So we have the preamble, the Part 1 scope and definition, and the principles of national policy. Part 3, action at the national level. And then Part 4, action at the level of the undertaking. And Part 5, final provisions. So this is the content. So let's see if does the Philippines has the number 155. So since we already have the number 187, okay? So it has 187 but it does not have the 155. Okay. At least it has this convention number 187. So again, convention number 155 is it obliges the signatory countries to formulate, implement, and periodically review their national policy and OSH in the work environment. Okay, next is convention number 155 set the criteria to be met in order to guarantee the creation of a proper national OSH policy. So the most important criterion is the determination of the functions and responsibilities of public authorities, employers, and workers, as well as their participation in the formulation of the policy. So that's convention number 155. So equally important for OSH is ILO Convention number 187 adopted in 2006 on the promotional framework of OSH. The member states that ratified Convention number 187 are obliged to formulate a national policy that promotes OSH and to lay out, develop, and implement a national system for OSH. So each country shall also formulate, implement, monitor, evaluate, and periodically review a national OSH program. So let's see, actually, you can already see that Philippines has ratified Convention 187. So they created these laws for RA number 11058 as their answer for Convention number 187. So this again, the Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health Convention 2006 number 187. We have again the preamble, the definition, the objective, the national policy, the national system, national program, and final provisions. So we also have ASEAN Occupational Safety and Health Network. So since Philippines is a member of ASEAN, So we have a work plan for 2016 to 2020, but though it's already 2021, let's see what is the work plan of the ASEAN OSH Net. So this is the template. So the ASCC vision in 2025 is an ASEAN community that engages and benefits the peoples and is inclusive, sustainable, resilient, and dynamic. Okay, we have the term peoples. Why does it have an S? Why not people? If actually it's not wrong grammar. If you encounter people with an S, meaning they're not just pertaining to a person, but to different um, um, different race, different culture. So that's the meaning of peoples. They're not referring to a person, but to a race, to a diverse backgrounds of people with different cultures. So that's with an S for peoples. So ASCC objectives, so we have enhanced commitment, participation, and social responsibility of ASEAN peoples through an accountable and inclusive mechanism for the benefit of all. Letter B, promote equitable access to opportunity for ASEAN people as well as promote and protect human rights. Letter C, promote social development and environmental protection through effective mechanism to meet the current and future needs of the people. Letter D, enhance capacity and capability to adapt and respond to social and economic vulnerabilities, disasters, climate change, as well as emerging threats and challenges. And letter E, strengthen ability to continuously innovate and be a proactive member of the global community. So the overall objective of ALM work program 2016 to 2020, a better quality of life for ASEAN people through workforce with enhanced competitiveness and engage in safe and decent work derived from productive employment, harmonious and progressive workplace, and adequate social protection. So key result area 3 of the ALM work program 2016 to 2020 outcome level. So harmonious, safe, and progressive workplace. The intermediate targets by 2020 of key result area 3 that are contributed by ASEAN OSH Net. Promoting sound industrial relation system, so reduced incidence of labor disputes in ASEAN member states, increased capacity and strengthened institutionalized mechanisms of social dialogues and tripartite cooperations in ASEAN, foster safe and healthy environment in the workplace, strengthen capacity for labor inspection, and increased capacities for labor law enforcement. So, three thematic area for 3.1 is development of common checklist for OSH inspection standards, and then collaboration with SLOM WG on the convening of the ASEAN Labor Inspection Conference, and then training of trainers on labor inspection and SMEs in informal sector. So, we have the timeline, indicative budget, country coordinator, and potential collaborators. For thematic 3.2, we have this ASEAN OSH Net Awards. So wow, they have this award ceremony. Publication of the compendium of the awardees profile, ASEAN OSH Net Conference, workshop to improve the ASEAN OSH Net scorecard, and workshop on OSH data collection and analysis, or including on work injury and compensation systems. Again, they have the timeline, indicative budget, country coordinator, and potential collaborator. And then we have other for the thematic 3.2. Participate in the international events to raise the ASEAN OSH Net profile, the 21st World Congress on Safety and Health at Work in Singapore, including an ASEAN Youth Summit on OSH, the APOSHO Conference in Malaysia, annual updating on ASEAN member states training requirements and expertise to share, development of an ASEAN risk management guidebook focusing on SMEs, and workshop to develop the guidebook, and then regular updating of national OSH profiles using the ILO Convention 187 or the promotional framework for OSH as a framework, and development of a regional OSH standard using the ILO Convention as a reference. And then stock taking of existing injury compensation institutions in ASEAN member states for OSH standards and performance enhancement. And then workshop on prevention and awareness raising on work injury compensation, stock taking of annual national OSH campaign in ASEAN member states. Each ASEAN member state to provide a one-page summary of national OSH campaign for the ASEAN OSH Net website. Then workshop on OSH and work injury compensation in informal sector and rural employment. And then work towards development of ASEAN guidance. Note on OSH in informal sector. Training of trainers to enhance understanding and implementation of the guidance note on OSH management system for SMEs. And then undertake a joint research on risks and economic benefits of OSH among the research institutions in ASEAN. And then the thematic 3.3, the HIV prevention and control in the workplace. So we have the ASEAN Business Coalition on HIV, AIDS, or the ASEAN BCA, ASEAN Red Ribbon for Outstanding Workplace Awards, or ARO, ASEAN Guidelines on Essential Workplace Action for Enterprises on Prevention and Management of HIV and AIDS, and then development of an ASEAN Guidelines on HIV counseling and testing in the workplace, and then workshop to review the current practices on HIV and migration, recruitment policies, and mandatory testing in the workplace. And then ASEAN Regional Forum on addressing stigma and discrimination against people living with HIV and AIDS in the workplace. So actually, it's a very comprehensive project for that. So I hope they accomplished all of them. So this is the work plan of ASEAN OSH Net for 2016 to 2020. So I think there will be newer for 2021 to 2020 for 2025. So let's go back with our presentation. So if European Union has its own OSH law, ASEAN also has. Since again, we have to localize since Philippines is a member of ASEAN. So, okay, so do you have any questions? So if you do have any questions, feel free to comment on our forums or comment below. And please do not forget to like my YouTube page. So again, so I hope you learned something about our legal labor protection. Again, for the end of our lesson for today. So since you must be familiar or aware of the labor protection laws, specifically of the country where you're going to be employed, you must be at least aware. So since we are here in the Philippines, we must be at least aware of the duties of the workers, of the employers, on how to handle the occupational safety and health of the workforce. So again, thank you very much and good day.